Hello, this is Peter Glock. Welcome to the Week in Cyber. What we're going to do in the next few minutes is take you a very quick run through of the hot news that came out last week in the world of cyber risk and cybersecurity, and give you maybe some pointers to some topics that might be discussed in the future. So, going to attempt to get through this in 3 minutes. For more in-depth discussion and knowledge about some of these subjects, come and see us over on our blog, which is Glock Takes Stock. Just type in Glock takes stock into your search engine of choice and you should be able to find us. First piece of news, and this is quite a big one. In Europe, we've been debating the general data protection regulations for some time. Well, last week the GDPR was published and we now have a date for its implementation. That date is May the 25th, 2018. Now that's a very important date because it means by then your business will need to be compliant with the GDPR. And if you don't know what that actually means, well, now's the time to do a review with your lawyers, with your information security specialists, in fact, with everyone involved in your cyber security and cyber risk side. You could even talk to Brown Glock, which is my business, but that's not a shameless plug. Okay, so 25th of May 2018, put it in your diary. Second thing, actually some good news, strangely enough. One of the challenges generally with some of the hacking that goes on is that the perpetrators are in different countries from the victims, and it's actually quite difficult to do things across jurisdictions. Well, one case that came up in the last week was the punishment handed out to the creators of the Spy Trojan, who are now going to go to jail for a very long time. So that's good. And as more punishments come up, I will attempt to publicise them, because I think we would all like the hackers to think that there are consequences to their actions. And the third thing I wanted to talk about was the impact of one judge in Brazil on 100 million users of the WhatsApp application. Now in Brazil, WhatsApp is used as a bypass to the telephone system, and it's an important connection for a lot of Brazilians. So to have that taken away for effectively a weekend by a judge was a major blow. Let's have a look and see if there's going to be any other judicial rulings that will affect service coming up. One to watch. Right, so that was in the law side. Let's just talk about cybersecurity, what's happening there. First, and the very big news in cybersecurity, was the leakage of over 1 billion credentials. So that's mostly emails and the associated passwords. If you use public email like mail.ru in Russia, or Yahoo, or Hotmail, or Gmail, now's the time to review your password policy and change your passwords on a regular basis, because, as I said, over 1 billion credentials were leaked. Next thing was some spam that came around. This started in Asia. Haven't seen it spread to Europe and the States yet, but it won't be long. These are crafted emails which contain a link purporting to be a Skype connection, but they're not. They will actually get your machine to download a nasty piece of software. So look out for Skype spam. And the third thing I want to talk about is about patching the infrastructure that makes up the internet. Two things that came out last week. One was a library called OpenSSL, which is a whole series of instructions for doing things like, well, mostly what it's doing is creating those HTTPS secure connections to web servers. That's one of the very big things it does. There were several vulnerabilities. I think it was 6 discovered last week, 2 of which are critical. So it's time to make sure that your infrastructure and that provided to you is patched and up to date to make sure that you stay secure. And the other one, and this is mildly curious, if you've ever uploaded an image and then edited it using a web browser, you've probably used a library called ImageMagick, that or another one called GD, but let's not worry about that. In ImageMagick, a vulnerability was discovered last week which would enable a malicious person to upload a particular kind of image which would give them potentially remote access to your servers. Patches aren't out yet, well they weren't out when I recorded this, but there are mitigating steps you can take to make sure that those images can't be uploaded. Again, your IT suppliers, your IT people should know all about that. If they don't, when you ask them about ImageMagick, be afraid. Alright, last thing I want to talk about very quickly is one other thing that's come through as a spin out from the Panama Papers. And by the way, yes, like most other people, I'm reasonably fed up with hearing about the Panama Papers, but it's this concept of cyber whistleblowing, which is going to be a political or moral action with someone disclosing information because they think it's the right thing to do. So not for malicious purposes, but because they think it's the right thing to do. This one's going to play through over the next few years, I'd say. And if you looked at the actions of Edward Snowden, for example, or Bradley Manning, or Mossack Fonseca, it will be interesting to see how many more breaches occur because someone thought that information should necessarily be out in the wild. Let's keep an eye on cyber whistleblowing. Right, that's it for this particular run through. I will be attempting to publish one of these every week, so come back soon.